What is going on, Trash Talkers? We are back with another episode for you. In today's video, we're going to give you our starts and sits for Week 2 in fantasy football. All that and much more coming your way right now! All right, before we get into today's video, be sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video as it will help us out tremendously. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's video. All right, Nick, Week 2 is upon us, and we have to get to our fantasy football starts and sits of the week. Nick, why don't you get us started at the quarterback position? Give us your start and your sit for this week.
Yeah, well, my start quarterback for this week is Derek Carr going up against the Arizona Cardinals. To me, this is going to be a shootout on both sides, and Derek Carr with Davante Adams and Darren Waller, he's going to have a big game. We saw the connection already there with Davante Adams last week. It's going to grow and it's going to get better. To me, the Las Vegas Raiders have so much passing talent that Derek Carr is just going to be throwing the ball everywhere, and he's going to have a lot of opportunities. I like the upside for him. But my sit quarterback is going to be Trey Lance going up against the Seattle Seahawks. Last week, Trey Lance didn't have a great game, but he was also playing in the middle of the ocean. I'm not going to really count that, but now he's going up against the Seattle Seahawks, and we saw what trouble they gave Russell Wilson last week. I think that the Seattle defense is still packing a punch. It's a divisional matchup, and I just don't think Trey Lance is going to get his sea legs back underneath him for this game, and it's just not going to be the best fantasy outcome for Trey Lance.
I didn't know the ocean reached all the way to Illinois, but I guess we'll figure out geography later. For my start of the week, I'm going with Matthew Stafford going against the Atlanta Falcons. Listen, the Atlanta Falcons are just one of the worst teams in the NFL, and while they're going to put up a fight, they don't have the requisite pieces on defense outside of Grady Jarrett and AJ Terrell to really get after Matthew Stafford in this offense. And the absolute terrible performance that the Rams put on in Week 1 against the Buffalo Bills, they need to show the world why they are the superpower, the reigning Super Bowl champions, and I believe that this is the time where Matthew Stafford and company are going to come to light. They are going to absolutely blow the doors off of the Atlanta Falcons, and I fully expect this to be a high-octane matchup for the Rams in particular. For my sit, though, I'm going with a big name here, Tom Brady going against the New Orleans Saints. Now, Tom Brady tends to struggle when he plays against the New Orleans Saints. Trust me, I have had Tom Brady in the past going against the New Orleans Saints as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. It has not worked out in his favor over the last few years. I don't think that with the issues that they're having with injuries and people not being on the same page as Tom Brady, a lot of issues in the running game, I need to see more, and I don't think Tom Brady's going to be able to have the actual GOAT day that he typically has. The New Orleans Saints tend to have his number, and I'm sitting him in Week 2.
Now moving over to running backs, my start running back for this week is Damien Harris for the New England Patriots taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now the big reason why you need to start Damien Harris is there is no TJ Watt. This is going to be a very exposed defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Without him, they're going to have to figure that out, but while they're figuring that out, we're going to see the New England Patriots get back to their roots in this matchup. They need a big victory here, and they're going to do so on the ground. Damien Harris is going to be utilized a lot. He may have only had 8 carries in Week 1, but that's going to get doubled, maybe even tripled in this matchup, and he is a great running back after contact. He is going to be a very utilized player, and I think with that upside, you have to play him. But my sit running back is going to be James Robinson going up against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, he went off in his rebound from that injury last year, and he really had a great day with those 2 touchdowns, but he's not necessarily going to have that touchdown upside in this matchup against the Colts. They have a very strong front defensive line that is going to be there to stop him. They face off twice a year. They know what James Robinson brings to the table, and they're going to be ready to stop him. DeForest Buckner is right in the middle of that line, and if he has anything to say about it, James Robinson is not going to have a good day.
Another divisional matchup I want to look at here for my running back start. I'm taking a look at Jeff Wilson, the running back who is filling in for Elijah Mitchell. he has to take on the reins. And what we saw in his limited capacity last year, taking over, he was phenomenal at that starting running back position. He knows how to command this offense at that running back position. He knows this scheme extremely well. He can run with those tackles, and I fully expect that Jeff Wilson is going to have a breakout day against the Seattle Seahawks. This is not a front seven that is too concerned about stopping the run. They are more worried about stopping the pass and Trey Lance. Jeff Wilson's going to have open fields to run through all day, and he's going to do so. For my sit running back, I'm going with yet another NFC West guy, this one being Cam Akers. Cam Akers is just not getting the snap percentage that we thought, and that might have only been week one, but Darrell Henderson did so much with his opportunities last week, and he is going to be put on a show again. I believe that Cam Akers is going to fall back a little bit further in this one, and he will be the requisite running back 2 on the Los Angeles Rams. He's not a guy that you can count on until he shows that he can do it week in and week out. I'm sitting Cam Akers this week.
Now moving over to wide receivers, my start receiver is Brandon Aiyuk. Now I'm not very high on Trey Lance, but I believe the upside is there for Brandon Aiyuk, who got involved last week. It seems like the dog days are over for Brandon, and he's going to be heavily utilized in this offense. They're going to try to just dump the ball off to him and see what he can do. He is a spectacular guy when he has the football in his hands, and it's just going to be very interesting to see what he is truly capable of. I know that they're going to want to get him more targets, and I think that's going to lead to a lot of yards and a big fantasy day. But my sit wide receiver is going to be Brandon Cooks going up against the Denver Broncos. My biggest reason for this, Patrick Surtain on the other side of the field was pretty much a lockdown corner in Seattle last week going up against DK and Tyler Lockett. Brandon Cooks is the true number one there. There's no need for Patrick Surtain to flip-flop. He's going to be locked in and locking down Brandon Cooks in this matchup. I just don't think Brandon Cooks at his age is going to be able to separate from such an elite cornerback.
Yeah, Nick, we might be on the same page with how we were doing things. You sat a quarterback but started their receiver. I'm doing the same thing. While I sat Tom Brady, I am starting Julio Jones. I think Julio Jones is going to be the requisite receiver to really get any points that are left on the football field. Mike Evans is going to have his one-on-one matchup with Marshawn Lattimore. It goes back and forth. Both of those guys are tied dead even. Lattimore will get some of Evans. Evans will get some of Lattimore. I can't trust that. Julio Jones will take on the number 2 in New Orleans, and he's going to have a field day because he's normally covered by number 1s, and he's now going to have all that space to work with, and I believe Tom Brady trusts him implicitly. He trusts him a lot more than Russell Gage. With Chris Godwin coming back from yet another injury, it's going to be the Julio Jones show in the passing game. I'm starting Julio Jones this week. For my sit wide receiver, though, I'm taking Elijah Moore, the big-time wide receiver for the New York Jets. Elijah Moore was not only behind Corey Davis and Garrett Wilson in targets last week, he was also behind 2 separate running backs on his own team. That is a major issue for Elijah Moore owners. This is not something that can be corrected. Joe Flacco has his favorites, and until Zach Wilson shows that he is going to be the guy that can come in and really work with his receivers, we know the rapport that they have. It's about Joe Flacco right now and what he does with these receivers. I do not believe that Elijah Moore will be one of those top guys this week.
And now to round it out with our tight ends, my start tight ends for the week, OJ Howard going up against the Denver Broncos. Brandon Cooks might be locked up in this one, but OJ Howard, he got the touchdowns last week, and I think Davis Mills and him have a strong connection already, and it's going to grow. He is the check down guy for Davis Mills. He's going to be looking to him a lot to bail him out, and being that security blanket goes a long way with the tight end position because it's hard to come by somebody who can be consistently good on your fantasy team. But I believe OJ Howard could be that sleeper guy with the high upside that can really help you in your week 2 matchup. But for my sit tight end, I'm going with Noah Fant going up against the 49ers. They have some of the strongest safeties and linebackers, and with the athleticism that they possess, it's going to be hard for Noah Fant to reproduce what he did in week 1 with Geno Smith. Geno Smith may have had a strong week 1, but I don't believe he'll be as accurate, as consistent as he was, and that's going to hurt Noah Fant. I don't think he's going to have the same success. I don't see the same fantasy upside this week, and for that reason, you should sit him.
For my start tight end, I'm going with Dalton Schultz. While I do not trust the quarterback situation in Dallas, one thing is for certain: the tight end position is always a security blanket for quarterbacks, especially for backup quarterbacks filling in for the starters. I believe that Dalton Schultz is going to get a lot of those receptions. He's going to get a lot of targets, a lot of looks from Cooper Rush and company. I believe that he is going to be a focal point on this offense if they're going to have any chance of moving this ball. I believe that Dalton Schultz should be a start on your roster. For my sit tight end, I'm going with a guy who you should probably just drop at this point, but I'm going with Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki was not only barely targeted last week, but he was targeted less than Durham Smythe, the other tight end on the Miami Dolphins roster. And I believe that Mike Gesicki is more of an inline blocker in this Mike McDaniels offense. I do not trust his skill set moving forward. I'm not banking on this guy to be able to put up any points for my team. If he gets a touchdown here and there, that's great. Otherwise, it's not going to be pretty for Mike Gesicki owners. I'm going to sit him and possibly cut him from my roster.
Hey, remember a couple of years ago when we were saying Mike Gesicki was actually Mike Goosegi because he had so many 0-point games? Looks like those days might be back.
Yeah, I think they are back for sure, but I want to hear from you guys. Let us know in the comments down below what you're planning on doing in week 2, who you want to start, who you want to sit. If you have any questions for your lineup, feel free to hit us up in the comments and we'll be sure to answer them. All right, well, that's going to be all for now. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.